Hello and welcome. In this lecture we are going to be setting up our project and bringing in the assets we need for this section. You can see we've got this lovely dungeon asset pack with lots of props, and it's fully modular, which means that we can very easily use it to create our own levels. Let's dive in and get this project set up. So for this section, I'm going to be using the fantastic assets from Infuse Studio called Medieval Dungeon Pack. They are freely available on the Epic Games Store. So I do recommend you go ahead and get these. So you're going to sign in to download, you're going to download them, possibly check out if you need to, and then they're going to magically appear in your library tab down at the bottom under the vault. So you can see My Medieval Dungeon down here, and it is 2.2 gig to download. But to download it, you will need to add it to a project. So that's the first step. Launch up your editor. Let's get to the new project pane. And we're going to create one based on the games templates. And in this case, we're going to use the first person template, not because I want a first person shooter, but because I want a character that has a first person viewport for our game. So what we're going to do is I'm going to exclude starter content because I don't want that. We're going to start straight away with a C++ project in this case, and the other options, desktop, maximum, and without ray tracing in my particular case. I'm going to browse to a project location where I've already created a container folder. Now this is going to create a folder within a folder. It's a pet peeve of mine, but I can't figure out a better way to make this work with version control, which I use here, and I recommend you use if you know what it is. Then we're going to create the project name is going to be CryptRaider as well. So it's going under the CryptRaider folder. We're going to create a new folder called CryptRaider. Let's go ahead and click Create. So because we were creating a C++ project, that may take a little bit of time for you, and sometimes it doesn't give you much indication that stuff is going on. But once that's done, we will get the Visual Studio Code project launched up, and yes, I'm going to hit Trust the Authors in this case. Then we've also got our Unreal Editor project launched up, and I've got an output log visible here. I'm just going to close that down to give us a bit more space. And let's have a little play around with what's here. I'm going to close the place actors as well and hit play. So you can see I've got some first person hands. I can move around with my mouse, and I can strafe and move like I would in any first person shooter. I can grab the gun and I can shoot at the environment around me, which is quite a cool little environment and a nice little template project, especially if you want to create a first person shooter. You can see a lot of the stuff that's going on here, but we're going to not use a lot of this stuff. What we're going to do is add in the asset pack. So let's go over to the Epic Games launcher, go to the library tab, find your asset pack. In my case, it's Medieval Dungeon, but if you wanted to use a different modular asset pack, I can recommend the Modular Sci-Fi Season 1 and Modular Sci-Fi Season 2 packs as great ways of building out modular levels in a very similar way if you wanted a different theme. But that said, I do recommend, unless you're experienced with this, you follow along with the same assets as me. So let's click Add to Project. Now we're going to have to click Show All Projects because the exact version doesn't match because of Unreal 5. So we're going to select the CryptRaider project, and you can see it's saying it doesn't have a compatible version. So we're going to choose the latest version that's compatible, which in this case is 4.26. And we're going to click Add to Project. Now, when you do this for the first time, it's going to have to download the assets, which are 2.2 gigabytes. So do go ahead and set that off now, and you can watch through the rest of the video while that's working. So while that's downloading, let's go over to our content browser and create ourselves a new level. In fact, we can do this from the File menu, go New Level, and I'm going to create a completely empty level, and we're going to start from there in building our dungeon map. So let's click Create. Let's go to the File menu and click Save Current Level, and we're going to save it in the root of content. I'm going to call this my dungeon, and I'm going to hit Save. Now we want to change the settings so that that is the default map. Let's go over to Settings, Project Settings, into Maps and Modes, and the editor default startup map should be the dungeon in both cases, like so. And now if we go over to our content drawer, for me, the Medieval Dungeon packs are already in here. So what we can do is go and have a little bit of a look. So I'm going to dive into the maps and open up the demonstration level. and close down my content drawer and see what we have. Okay, pretty cool looking stuff. If we hit play, we can actually play around with this inside our first person. Unfortunately, we fall right through the floor, and that's due to there being some collision mesh issues which we'll have to sort out. No matter, we can go around the level in our preview mode and see that it does look pretty nice. There's some very ambient lighting, there's lots of different components that we can play with. This level has been constructed very nicely indeed. We've got cages, we've got lots of props, and we've got a whole kind of different set of assets down here in the crypt, slightly lower ceilings and different structure of floor, etc., making everything a little bit more cramped feeling in the crypt. And at the end of the crypt here, we've got the kind of pièce de résistance, which is the crypt mausoleum. And I'm going to be making use of this later on, and we can have a look and get some inspiration while it's downloading. Have a think of while I'm showing you this, what elements you like, what you might want to use in your game, because that's what we're going to be doing very soon, is designing the level here. Okay, so that's it for project setup. Let your project finish adding its assets, and I'll see you in the next video.